Okay, it looks like we're recording. Sorry for the delay, everyone, and thank you for your patience. I'm going to go ahead and call this session of the City of Sedro-Woolley Hearing Examiner to order. For the record, today is August 12th, 2025 at 10:20 a.m. So we have one item on the agenda today. That's number CUP 2025-010, which involves a request for approval of a conditional use permit to allow for a 14-unit transitional housing facility on an approximately 1 acre portion of a 2.9 acre church property located at 1013 Pulte Road. My name is Peregrine Sorter. I'm a hearing examiner with Laminar Law, whom the city has selected to hold certain land use hearings like this one. And it's going to be my role today to collect evidence in the form of exhibits and testimony to determine whether this proposal complies with the city comprehensive plan, zoning ordinances, and the specific criteria for approval of a conditional use permit. So to that end, I did receive and review several exhibits in advance of this hearing. These include the staff report prepared by city staff, the application and project plans, a draft lease agreement, a draft access and parking easement agreement, materials related to the environmental review of the proposal, various notice materials, and several comments on the proposal from members of the public. So I'm going to go ahead and admit those exhibits into the record. If anyone has any additional exhibits that they would like admitted into the record, just please let me know when it's your opportunity to testify, and then I'll go ahead and address admitting additional exhibits at that time. Speaking of testimony, all testimony today will be under oath or affirmation because were my decision to be appealed, the recording of today's hearing, along with the admitted exhibits and my written decision, would serve as the foundation for any such appeal. I may ask questions of those who are testifying today. I just want to ensure that I have a clear understanding of this proposal so that after the record closes, I'm able to produce a decision that is hopefully clear and legally defensible. The order that we typically follow, and I believe we're going to be following today, is first we're going to hear from city staff, who will provide an overview of this proposal along with any recommendations that the city may have. Following that, we're going to hear from the applicant and see if there's any additional information they feel that myself or members of the public should be aware of in advance of my decision being issued. After that, members of the public will have an opportunity to testify. And then finally, following public testimony, I'll turn back to the applicant and city as necessary for any response. So I think with that, we can go ahead and get started. Who do we have on behalf of the city today? Hello, let's go ahead and get you sworn in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. And if you can go ahead and spell your name and explain your role with the city.
My name is Nicole McGowan, Nicole McGowan, McGowan. I'm the planner with the city of Sedro-Woolley. I'll be giving the project overview and answering any planning questions I can.
Great. And did my summary of the exhibits track with what you were hoping I'd review in advance of this hearing?
Yes, just wanted to double check you read into the record those two additional ones that I sent you this morning.
Yes, I received 2 additional public comments, and I'll go ahead and add those to, I believe it's Exhibit 8, the existing public comments.
So, yes, perfect.
Great. So, Ms. McGowan, you can go ahead and begin your presentation whenever you're ready.
Okay, sure thing. Good morning, everyone. I'll just go ahead and jump right into it. So, this conditional use permit application was submitted by Family Promise of Skagit Valley for the permanent installation of 14 small homes at 1013 Pulte Road in Sedro-Woolley. The 1 acre project site is located just south of the existing Central United Methodist Church on the property. That church is located on the northern portion. The project site is just south. So the proposal is intended to provide transitional housing for families with children who are working their way out of homelessness. Family Promise is a nonprofit organization that assists families in achieving long-term housing stability and self-sufficiency. This project would be kind of part of their broader mission to address housing insecurity in our community. The development would consist of 14 prefabricated homes placed on permanent foundations, and those unit sizes range from 400 to 898 square feet. Each dwelling unit would be self-contained with plumbing, a private kitchen, bathroom, and an in-unit washer and dryer. The site layout, it shows pedestrian pathways, landscape areas, and a shared open space. And through establishment of cooperative parking agreements, the residents of the transitional housing facility would utilize small portions of the existing Central United Methodist Church parking lot, as well as the Bethlehem Lutheran Church parking lot on the property adjacent to the south. Some minor improvements would be performed in the Central United Methodist Church parking lot to ensure that adequate emergency access to development is there. Family Promise is seeking to use the provisions of RCW 3670A 545, which permits increased residential density for affordable housing projects located on property owned by religious organizations. In this case, the Central United Methodist Church owns the property, which enables the density increase to support Family Promises program needs, while also maintaining the compatibility with surrounding land uses and applicable code regulations. The city has reviewed the application for compliance with applicable zoning, design standards, environmental regulations, and the city's comprehensive plan. Public notice was issued in accordance with the city's requirements, and the proposal has been routed to city staff and other reviewing agencies for comment. All the written materials, feedback, and public input received are part of the record and were included in the staff report. Excuse me. To ensure the project functions as intended and serves as a valuable asset to the community, staff have recommended a series of conditions that address the site design, infrastructure, building standards, landscaping, fire and life safety, operations, and ongoing compliance. So in summary, the proposal aims to provide stable, well-managed transitional housing for families in need in partnership with a local faith-based organization. And the conditions recommended by staff are intended to balance the applicant's goals with the city's standards for public safety, neighborhood compatibility, and long-term success of the facility. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. McGowan, for your staff report and presentation here today. I do have a few questions for you. First, I just want to make sure that I'm clearly understanding how this proposal has come before me as a conditional use permit. So you mentioned RCW 3670A 545. And that as a GMA planning city, the city's subject to this affordable housing density bonus, correct?
Correct.
But the city has not yet amended its code to implement the requirements of the statute. Is that also correct?
Correct. So the RCW, it does allow for this density increase. Cities are able to place a limit to that density increase. However, the city of Sedro-Woolley has not yet put into code what that limit would be. So the conditions herein are kind of trying to make sure that this project is well planned and not overly dense or can't be supported by existing infrastructure.
Great. And then so the city's zoning code, currently it doesn't specifically list affordable housing developments or transitional housing facilities as permitted or conditional uses in the R7 zone. Is that correct? It's just not addressed by the zoning code.
It's just not addressed.
Okay. And then I guess, so on that note, is city staff considering this proposed use as similar to another use listed as conditional, or is this just it's a new use mandated by statute?
It's a use mandated by statute.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that. Okay, thank you so much. And then you mentioned, so in general, the code provides a maximum density of 7 units per acre in this zone, but under the statute, the city's required to allow for a density bonus
Correct.
under certain circumstances. Okay. And then my understanding from the staff report is that city staff is treating the proposal as a multifamily development with regard to recreational area requirements.
Correct.
You want to speak further on that?
Yeah, so the way staff have looked at this is this project functions a lot like a multifamily development would, with multiple families all kind of sharing a generalized space. There was also consideration of whether to use the, we don't have the code in place yet, but cottage housing code, to where, all of the units are located surrounding a shared open space area. But like I said, we don't have any code in place for that either. So the multifamily kind of shared open space was the closest that we could get, considering this is not a subdivision, a unit lot subdivision, which, that would be more closely aligned if they were unit lot subdivisions with, the typical residential recreation that we use for subdivisions of 7 units or more. In this case, it's a little closer to the multifamily development in that way.
And then you did mention that the project would be subject to administrative design review. But at this stage, city staff have determined that the development would comply with dimensional requirements for the R7 zone, correct? As far as the overall lot setbacks and.
Correct.
Okay. And then can you just briefly speak to the landscape screening that would be required with this proposed development?
Yeah, so we've received a number of public comments with concerns about privacy and noise. And so that landscaping requirement is intended to try to address that issue and work it into their minimum required landscaping for the site regardless. So.
Okay. And then the city did issue an MDNS for this proposal that was not appealed, correct?
Correct.
And then I believe as part of the mitigation required, the applicant would be required to comply with the stormwater management requirements of the most current DOE manual. Is that correct?
Correct. And I believe that's a condition of the MDNS as well.
Okay. Okay. And then I guess finally, I did read all of the comments that were submitted for this project. Some of the concerns that were raised by members of the public include environmental impacts, traffic impacts, impacts to utility infrastructure, the number of proposed units, existing issues with garbage and trash in the area, and safety concerns. Would you care to address any of those concerns at this time, or we can turn back to that after the public testimony portion of the hearing?
I'd be happy to address some of them at this time. So with respect to environmental concerns, this property, they did undergo SEPA environmental review based off of the SEPA checklist that they provided. There were no critical area indicators on the property at all. We did conduct a site visit as well and confirmed that there are no critical areas on site. As far as environmental concerns, it'd be a couple of trees going down. That's it, really. So staff didn't find that there would be any significant impacts from this development to the environment. What else? There was parking concerns. So the church parking lot immediately, the Central United Methodist Church that's on site, and then the Bethlehem Lutheran Church to the south, they both have rather large parking lots. And with the peak hours kind of differing between the residential use and the church use, church would use the parking lot and have it be used twice a week and kind of in the morning, right? So in the residential at night. So we found that with those peak hours differing and both churches showing that they have excess parking than is required for churches under our off-street parking and loading chapter. As far as number of spaces required, we found that a cooperative provision for the parking would suffice for this case. With respect to solid waste, the applicant has not determined quite yet what the location or method of solid waste disposal would be, but we have implemented a condition that they either need to get a larger dumpster and share with Central United Methodist Church, or get a second dumpster that would serve just the transitional housing facility. Either option, they need to show where they're going to put that and have that vetted by the solid waste department as well as public works. So what else was there? Can you run through the list again?
I think there were some concerns about impacts to utility infrastructure, maybe sewer, water.
Okay. I think I'd like to turn to Peter Lane, the city engineer, to answer those, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead and get you sworn in, Mr. Lane.
Yeah.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I do.
And if you could just spell your name for the recording and explain your role with the city.
First name Peter, last name Lane, Peter Lane, and I'm the city engineer for the city of Sedro-Woolley.
Great, thank you, Mr. Lane. And then I believe there were some concerns about impacts to utility infrastructure.
Correct. For water, that is resourced by PUD, a separate entity, but we have no concerns. Other projects have found quantity and pressure of water in that area. For sewer, we do have capacity in our system for this use, both at our plant and the mains and laterals that would support the individual units.
Great, and then I think the staff report or the materials mentioned a new fire hydrant that would be installed for fire safety issues.
Correct. Yes, that would be required by PUD and our fire department. But yes, that was a conditional use item.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lane. Unless you have any other comments, I don't have any other questions for the city at this time. Were there any other members of city staff that wanted to testify before I turn to the applicant? Nope.
Not at this time.
Okay, great. And who do we have on behalf of the applicant here today?
Audrey Wall, Executive Director of Family Promise of Skagit.
Hello, Ms. Wall. Let's go ahead and get you sworn in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I do.
Great. So now's your opportunity. I do have a couple questions for you, but now's your opportunity if you want to present any additional information about the project.
Not really.
Okay, great. So did you have an opportunity to review the conditions that were recommended by city staff?
Yes.
And would you have any issue complying with those conditions?
No, we've talked about most of these things quite in depth and agree with keeping the land. We don't want to remove as very much of the environmental, no trees, anything like that. And we do want to landscape both for our residents and for current residents in a way that make them feel like they still have a space that's safe and like home.
Great. And did you have an opportunity to read the comments that were submitted on this proposal?
Yes, I did. And I created a response that went back to the city as well.
Okay, great. And then did you want to address any of your responses here at this time, or we can wait to wait till the public has an opportunity to testify?
Yeah, I'm good with waiting.
Okay, so are there any other members of the applicant team that want to testify before we turn to the public testimony portion of the hearing? No. Okay, so what we're going to do is go ahead and turn to any members of the public that want to provide comments on this proposal. It does appear there's a lot of people in the room. I don't know if they're all here, if they're with the applicant or not. So what I would suggest is if you are a member of the public that would like to provide comments, if you can utilize the raise hand function on Zoom. Or if you want to unmute and just go, hey, I want to provide comment.
We have a public comment in here.
Okay, in the room. Okay, great.
Do you need to swear the commentary?
Yes, let me go ahead and
Just
swear you in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
did you see that?
I do.
I don't know where I'm looking here. Who do we have testifying?
May not see.
If you can just state and spell your name. There we go. Okay.
I'm David Mullins, and my last name is spelled Mullins.
Thank you for being here today, Mr. Mullins. You can go ahead and provide any comments that you would like.
So first off, I'll just address what was previously mentioned. So Nicole had mentioned that there would be a couple trees removed. From satellite view, it looks to be upwards of 5+ trees. So was that taken into consideration, or there being more than just a couple, or what is a couple to Nicole?
Okay, so we're not going to go back and forth on questions, but if you have any questions like that, I'm going to write it down. I would suggest that the city write those down and the applicant, and then we'll see if we can get answers once we complete all the public comments. But did you have any other questions or concerns that you wanted to raise?
I did. So then I'll
Okay.
just give them in list form.
Great,
So
thank you.
My other one is, so number 2 would be, you said that they are prefab homes. So that also depends on where they're made, how they're made. If they're prefab, as in, say, mobile homes, that decreases the value of the properties around them, typically when those go in. I am a builder, so I do know a little bit about costs associated with prefab versus stick built. So if they're prefab, then I believe they would be on a not on a foundation, but on a pad, a permanent pad, which you could swap in and out prefabs, but you can't stick a stick built house on that. So it limits what it could be used for in the future. Number 3 is, so parking. My property is, my backyard fence is butts up to the parking lot of the Lutheran church. And at this time, we already have an abundance. So since January of this year, there's been 5 or 6 cars parked up against my fence. A couple of them were doing drugs, a couple of them working on their cars. So we have a constant flow of traffic there. People camp out there as well. There's a playground right there, literally in the parking lot pretty much, that is right next to the church, that I see as a safety concern for children. If you're going to use that as an access road, that means people most likely will not be going the speed of a parking lot. They will be going through it. With a playground right there, that raises concerns for the children. It raises concerns of what type of people are moving in there, as well as who the staff that will be overseeing these homes going in, who will be in charge of vetting them, who will be in charge of maintaining not just the buildings, but the people that are there. And if enforcement needs to be made with somebody not complying with rules or regulations, how will that be enforced and who will be doing that?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mullins. So if I can, I'm just going to summarize your questions to make sure that I have them correct. So I believe you had some concerns about the tree removal associated with the project, the type of structures that would be going in, existing activities within the parking area, safety concerns with vehicle traffic and an existing playground, and safety concerns about the resident population. Is that correct summary of your concerns?
Correct. I would just mention on the what type of structure goes in. I would want to know the impact on home values next to it. So just to be specific.
Thank you, Mr. Mullins. We'll see if we can get any answers to your questions when we're done with the public testimony portion here. Is there anyone else in the room that wants to testify on this matter?
Yeah,
Someone over here.
We have one more.
I'm the man with the hat.
Okay. If we can get the camera on the
Oh, you
person
don't have
testifying. Great. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I do.
And can you please state and spell your name for the recording?
Richard Jackson, Richard Jackson.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Jackson. You can provide any comments that you wish.
I guess to begin with, we need to recognize that this is doubling the authorized density based upon the revised Code of Washington. So that's going to have an impact a lot more than what the regular code would provide. The concern is for the adjoining properties that when actually was Raymond over there in the corner, was marking out where these sites were going to be. The backs of several of these are right within steps of the present residents' yards. And very close, and I understand the design so that you can have a central common area. But in fact, I know someone who actually lowered their fence some time ago so they'd have a better view of all these trees we're talking about, by the way. And this is, obviously going to impact the aesthetics of that. But the concern is more, and I asked the question at the other meeting about fencing around it. And it's sort of like, we'll get to it later was the response. And that's a definite concern, obviously, for all of these adjoining homeowners. And so I haven't gotten a good response about that. That also impacts security as well. And I don't know if landscaping is adequate to handle that. And I have seen nothing of what that looks like. That's my comment.
Great. Well, thank you for being here. We'll see if we can get a response to your concerns. Do we have anyone else in the room that would like to comment on this proposal?
It doesn't look like it.
I emailed my response.
Can I actually make one more comment?
We don't usually go back and forth, but it looks like there's not a lot of members that want to testify, so I'll allow it. Go ahead, Mr. Mullins.
And I may be asking the wrong people, but there has been for some time homeless people or people setting up little makeshift tents or makeshift things on not just church property, but the properties around the churches, both of them. As I used to work for Skagit County Sheriff's Department, I'm well aware of encampment starting or things like of that nature that have happened on both properties. I was wondering if this is to address housing crisis, what has been done about those, because they're still there.
Exactly. Oh. Wendy, hi.
Thank you, Mr. Mullins. Does that conclude your comments?
I'm gonna ask a question.
Okay. It looks like we have someone else in the room that wants to provide comments. Let's go ahead and get you sworn in. If you can raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
Yes.
And can you please state and spell your name for the recording?
Judy Lemley, Judylemley.
Limley, is that correct?
Lemley. Lemley.
Great. Thank you, Miss Limley. You can go ahead and provide your comments.
Okay. Whoops, there's one.
Go ahead.
Am I supposed to talk even now?
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah, yep.
Oh, okay. I didn't see you. I'm sorry. Okay. Has the church property been surveyed? Because the people that live at the end of Clifford Street up against the church property are now building a fence out in the church property because they say they had their property surveyed and that's part of their property. So now, and they spray painted all the houses on the grass where they're going to be located. And this fence goes right through one of the houses. So did they not survey the property before they planned where to put all these houses? That's it?
We'll see if we can get a response to your concern. Anybody else in the room?
Hello, I was wondering if I could possibly speak. I'm sorry, I have like a really old computer and old Zoom, so I don't have the hand option.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna double check just with the people in the room that there's no one left there that
Oh,
wants to
okay.
testify. Then I'll turn to people on Zoom. So
Oh, I apologize. Okay,
no
thank you.
no
Thank you.
problem, no problem.
It looks like there are no more testimonies in the room.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna go ahead and check in with people that are logged in on Zoom. We'll start with Wendy.
Thank
looks
you.
like.
Yes,
Great.
my name is, go ahead.
Let me go ahead and get you sworn in. I'll trust that
Okay.
you're raising your right hand. You don't
I
have to turn on your
certainly am.
camera. Okay. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I do.
Great. And can you state and spell your name for the recording, please?
Yes, my name is Wendy, Wendie, last name Granberg, Granberg.
Thank you, Ms. Granberg. You can go ahead and provide any comments that you would like.
Thank you. I'm a direct neighbor of both of these churches, and my property borders exactly where this project is proposed. And while I want to be clear that I support their overall goal, I understand this is a massive need in our community. I don't believe this has been thoroughly thought out, particularly the impact this is going to have on the direct neighbors and property owners of this church, the property owners and the direct neighbors of where this project is proposed. This is going to have a profound impact on our day-to-day life and living. And also, as others have mentioned, this is going to affect when it comes time for us to sell or we want to move on. And I just don't hear that that has been addressed by anyone involved in this project. And this is a very relatively small neighborhood that is relatively quiet. And we are fortunate enough to have some green space here where we can just sort of, catch a breath and take a pause. And that is going to be dramatically changed, essentially removed. And the fact that they have not bothered to address this to their neighbors is just really disturbing to me. And I don't think that's a positive way to get people on board with their project, is to ignore or deny the concerns of their direct neighbors. And I just want to also state, I share all the concerns of everyone else who has previously spoken. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Ms. Granberg. If there's anyone else that's logged on to Zoom that would like to provide comments, if you can either utilize your raise hand function, or it looks like we have Judy Hogness. You can go ahead and unmute.
Hello.
Hello. Did you want to provide comments on this proposal?
Yes, I would.
Okay, let's go ahead and get you sworn in. I'll trust that you're raising your right hand.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
Absolutely, yes.
Great. So you can go ahead and if you could just state and spell your name for the recording.
Judy, Judi. The last name is Hogness, Hauggness, as in Sam.
Thank you, Ms. Hogness. You can go ahead and provide any comments.
Okay, just a couple things. I attended the city council meeting. It was about 4 or 5 weeks ago now, and the church was there presenting their case as well, and just different things. I feel like I use the word untruths because I attended their open house as well. And again, I heard untruths that are not valid, and they're trying to sell it to the community that way. And that alarms me. If you're going to do this, do it by the book and represent yourself accordingly. What I heard at the city council meeting, it was brought up on how many times police calls have been made to the parsonage house, I believe now, and they said, oh, in the last 2 to 5 years, a couple times. Well, we've actually received police records reports of 83, and we have more coming, and that's in the last 2 to 3 years. Just to the 14 people that reside at, I'm going to be confused here, the Bethlehem Church site, I believe now. So that concerns me because they're going to have more population, more people, and they're telling the community they've only had 2 calls. Well, at the open house, they said, oh, we've only had 2 arrests. Well, you've had multiple calls for drug abuse, hit and run, child neglect, child with drugs in hand when the police arrived, things like that. That happened at the city council meeting, and we did read some police reports that we obtained, a couple of us in the community, and one homeowner that lives, has property right next door to the church. The other thing I noticed is at the open house, they tell you what you want to hear. The contractor clearly stated that we already have tiny home encampments or tiny home villages, complexes in Sedro-Woolley. And that is not really true. He was talking about the properties up at Northern State that are single family residences that are a tight little community. They're geared for first-time home buyers. I think when they were built before my time, they're a little bit older, but they're very nice. And it's a community setting where you probably buy them for $300,000 to $400,000. And they're not for homeless shelters or a transitional community. It's for single family homeowners. But he was pushing that off as like it was a transitional. He didn't say that, but he was pushing it off. We already have tiny homes in our community. The other one he used was there even tiny homes on Lake Whatcom, at south end of Lake Whatcom. And I'm going, what is he talking about? And he called it Wildwood. And I went, I know this property. It's called Wildwood Resort. It used to be a major campground back in the day, years ago, 50 years ago. And they've turned it into a second home, getaway resort, gated community that they sell tiny homes in there for about $500,000 to $600,000 with amenities of pickleball courts, pools, and so forth, and the lake and the amenities that could offer. But he just said, again, pushing it as tiny home encampments. The public was led to believe by what he just said, it was the same as what he's trying to do at the churches, and they're not. And you hear it all the time. You hear it that they're going to have women and children only, single moms and babies and small kids. And that might be true, but yet when they applied for their permit, they applied under the RCW code. I don't have it right in front of me. That allows, basically, you can't discriminate men, women, mental health, race, family, childless, with kids, without. So it's like they tell you what they want you to hear. And I just don't like being sold something that's not the truth. And I think that makes me very skeptical as a citizen and a community member. I'm very involved in our community, and I just don't see that this place is going in a residential area with small kids near schools, that it will have an impact on that area with their home values and possibly their safety to some degree. You know, that's all I have to say. It's a lot. I'm sorry I put it all out there, but that's truly how I feel. And I've listened to their board members talk, and it's always women and children is what comes out when they are talking about it. And that's not how they applied for it.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for allowing me to talk. Have a good day.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that's logged on to Zoom that would like to provide comments before I conclude the public testimony portion of this hearing? You can unmute and speak or use your raise hand function. I'm not seeing anyone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'll turn back to the applicant first to see if there's any responses to the concerns that were raised here today.
Yes, I have several responses to a lot of these comments. I would like to defer first back to Raymond to answer the question about the trees, the prefab homes, and the value of the homes. And then I can get back to some operational things. Does that sound okay?
Great.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and get you sworn in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
Yes.
Great. And can you spell your name for the recording and explain your role with this project?
Raymond Faber, it's R-A-Y-M-O-N-D, Faber, F-A-B-E-R. And I am the contractor for this project.
Great. You can go ahead and provide your responses anytime you're ready.
Yeah. As far as the trees go, I did lay out the buildings on the site with some paint, and I'd encourage those that were there to take a look. We were not going to touch any trees, and so there's maybe a small bush or two, and we can always replant them. But no, the large trees are intended to remain, so we're working around them. You can see the site plan. We're working around the trees that are there, so keeping it the way it looks. As for the homes, they are prefabbed, but I do not want to have people think that they're HUD homes. These are not HUD homes. These are not mobile homes. They're modular homes. So we build them here in our factory in Linden, just like a stick-built home. And then they do sit on foundations, just like a regular home. They're small. They're meant to be moved. But yeah, that's what we're intending to build here. And then yeah, I guess that's where home value comes into play. They are homes, and yeah, with tiny homes you can get mortgages and whatnot. It's not. Don't think them as a trailer. And yeah, so the property values can go up. I'm gonna skip down a few, talking about a little bit about what I was saying about Wildwood. I don't recall the other project. I didn't say anything about another project. I spoke of Wildwood at a previous meeting, and that was intended to talk a little bit about price and values. And that was the only thing. I wasn't saying that this project is exactly the same. I'm saying the houses that we're proposing, the same units we're proposing here for a different use. And so when I look at Wildwood and I see those units selling for high value, I'm speaking to people's concerns that prices are going to diminish. So yeah, that's kind of what I was speaking to. Let me see here. And then I can also say, as far as setbacks go, yeah, the setbacks that we're intending to meet are stipulated by the city. So if you've got 10-foot setbacks normally on properties, that was one of the comments. We are staying within the bounds of the city rules there. And then there was a comment on survey. No, we have not surveyed the property. We are going off of assumptions at this point in time, but we need to crawl before we walk. And that survey is the next thing on the list of things we need to do. So that an official survey will be done, but has not been done yet. Audrey, is there anything I missed that you feel you want me to talk about?
No, I think that covers all of that. It looks like Dan has a couple of things that he wants to add on about the church properties. He's the landlord of both of the church.
Sure, let's go ahead and get you sworn in. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
Yes, I do.
And if you could just spell your name for the record and explain your role with the project.
My name is Dan Simons, DANSYMONDS. I'm chair of the trustees for Central United Methodist Church.
Great, you can go ahead and testify whenever you're ready.
Okay, the church property at one point was 5 acres. It is currently 3 acres, but about 20 years ago, we subdivided 4 lots off for Habitat for Humanities. And so the survey that we're working off of right now was done by Sound Development when we did that subdivision 20 years ago. And it's recorded, you could look it up as Habitat Village in the Skagit County Auditor's file. So there's a current survey. We've just hired a new surveyor, and we'll do, because this is different lines and easements and so forth. But there was no problem, no question then. We do have some very aggressive people building fences 12 feet into the church property this week. I think they're taking advantage of this process. They have their sheds over the line in places. So there's some creep going on there that we'll have to take care of.
Anything further?
No, that's it.
Okay. Ms. Wall?
Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to try to go through these questions as I recorded them down. Starting with Dan Muller's questions. So I would say, and to address it, to start with, we serve families with children, not just women with children. So anybody who has a child in their custody or is pregnant, soon to have a child in their custody, could enter into our shelter program. I'll have my attorney talk to you a little bit about the RCW here in a little bit. We are tenants renting space currently for our shelter and our transitional housing. So we do not have full control over the properties that we're currently in. However, we do work closely with the churches as we can to handle things that happen on the property, such as calling the police quite frequently. We have made several, when we're on site, because our shelter rotates, so we're not on site 24 hours a day. When things happen on the property, when we are there, we call the police immediately to keep the children safe. But there are long time periods where our guests are at another church. So there's nobody there to be doing those things. So I do understand your concerns. We have had the same about people, especially post-pandemic, people coming on the property, sitting in the back of the property. We've helped the police bust several people back there, remove people off of the property. So that will continue on. And as we grow more, we have added cameras so that we can monitor those things. So if anybody has concerns, we can use those camera footage that we have to report to the police. But that is currently only on the Bethlehem Lutheran side. We don't have any of that security on the Central United Methodist side because we don't currently house any families on that side of the fence. So I know that that kind of goes into some of Wendy's questions about how we're addressing some of those things as well. As these units go on, cameras will be added. There will be an additional case manager that will be added to serve these families in particular, an operations manager that will be supporting the maintenance and upkeep of the site. I have a landscaper that works with a lot of our properties. He's now been moved over to the Bethlehem Lutheran Transitional House and will also be added to this site once the units are built to keep landscaping up. Let me see. We do have a plan to address the fences and the landscaping. Right now, we want to work with the surveyor first to see. I did talk with some homeowners about what would that look like to pull them forward a little bit farther. And so I just want to lean back towards Raymond when that decision time comes, because we want to value the environment that's already there and the homeowners. So when they get, after the hearing process goes through and we have more decisions, we will look into that and we will make sure we get things out to the homeowners and also call another meeting where we can discuss those things. As for the child safety and the type of people in the vetting, we vet every family that comes into our shelter. They go through a high level of case management, and they have to graduate our shelter programs in order to get into the transitional housing programs. We never take anybody who is straight from the streets or entering into homelessness or doubled up somewhere and just move them into transitional housing. They must complete certain programs in order to get there. I hope that covered all of those. Let me see, what else did I miss here? As for the police calls, we also have pulled reports on those. And over the decade that we have been here, we have had several police calls, and it's not just for the 14 people that are within the church. It's for the 14 people in the shelter, the 14 people in the transitional house, and the up to, I think it's 20 that we can serve in seasonal shelter. One of the suggestions I put forth on the table that I'd like to look at is that I think it would be valid for us to move our seasonal shelter when these housing units are built. It is the increase in calls that we have done that are the more, I would say, risky. But they would have been happening in the neighborhoods with nobody knowing that they were happening. Because they were at our shelter, we caught it immediately. We called them in. We got their kids into a safe situation. We maybe moved them to the facility that they needed to go to get the help that they needed to. But a lot of that extra activity is happening around our seasonal shelter time, because that is an emergent program that does serve families directly off of the streets, to keep children off of the streets in the cold weather. So the considerations we're making to the neighbors and to our own programming is finding a different location for that programming that does bring that additional risk. Also the additional traffic during that time, since a lot of that parking will already be now being used for the transitional housing. And I think then I would like to deter back to Craig, the Family Promise attorney, to address the RCW coding, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Hello, I'm not going to swear you in since you're going to be acting in your role as attorney, but if you could spell your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Craig, C-R-A-I-G. Last name is Cammock, C-A-M-M-O-C-K.
Okay, Mr. Kamek, you can provide any statements that you would like.
Thank you. So I will address RCW 36.7A.545. That is the statute in Washington state law that provides for a density bonus upon certain conditions. One of those conditions reflects federal law, which says you cannot, as a part of the program, discriminate against certain protected classes. And those are in part race, creed, color, national origin, sex, veteran or military status, sexual orientation, or mental or physical disability. That is, again, parroting federal law, which provides there are protected classes of people which you cannot discriminate against. Family Promise is going to impose requirements that participants in their program must have children, as part of a family unit in order to participate in one of the homes. It gets a little confusing, but think of it this way. They are providing criteria that, frankly, no single people allowed. We just want families with children. Single people with no children are not a protected class, and so that is a permissible rule and restriction for the Family Promise program. So if they wish to impose requirements that the only occupants of the houses must be families with children, that is entirely permissible both under RCW 3670A 545 as well as under federal law. So it is a permissible restriction, and they can enforce it for all the units that they are proposing. And I have nothing further.
Great, thank you. Ms. Wall, any other responses from the applicant team?
I think my last would just be in general, what is our plan? I think it goes back to the homelessness in general. As off of what Craig says, you know, we have this special class that we work with, a special group, and the idea is to reduce homelessness in the community. It's not always something that you can see immediately, but when we serve our children and keep them safe and keep them protected, we are reducing the larger amount of chronic homeless numbers that we will see in the future. That special age group of 0 to 5 is extremely vulnerable, and that is what we are focused on. So, well, we do serve people. It has come up, well, you still serve people that have all those criteria, right? You might be serving somebody who has mental health issues or substance abuse issues. Some of our families do have that in their background. However, they must meet the criteria of graduating shelter in order to get into transitional house again. So I just want to remind people, when you're thinking about this is not a homeless shelter. These individuals have worked hard to get back on their feet. Many of them are our neighbors who have fallen behind because they can't meet the $6,000 requirement to get into an apartment right now. And many cannot afford to buy homes right now. So this creates this gap service so that we can help them to, you know, increase their wages, do the things that they need to do so that they can be longtime members of our community. So it's, as I think if I've answered everything, unless there's something else, that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Ms. Wall. I'm going to turn now to the city and see if there's any further response to the concerns that were raised here today. Ms. McGowan?
Sure. I think I'm just going to touch on a couple. I believe the vast majority of the public comments have been addressed by the applicant team. With respect to Mr. Mullins' question on the homeless encampments part, so that we actually do have code for. It's a totally separate kind of application than what these folks are applying for. The homeless encampments are intended to be on a very temporary basis, and there's several criteria that they do need to undergo. It's all through a conditional use permit, but completely separate from what this is. So just wanted to make that clear. The other comment I wanted to mention on was the doubling the density. So just to reiterate again, the city does not have code in place for transitional housing or placing a cap on what that density increase that the RCW allows for. But staff do find that with these being small units, less than 900 square feet, and the infrastructure that's in place, you know, with some addition, would have the capacity in excess to serve this development. It's not overcrowded and does not pose a risk for overdensification. Bearing in mind that RCW also allows for multifamily development. So truthfully, if they wanted to put an apartment complex there, they could. So that's not what this is. It's a lot lesser of a use. I find it compatible with the neighboring uses as far as design and infrastructure and you know, safety services. All of those things are addressed. Just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Any last thoughts on behalf of the city before I adjourn this hearing?
Not from me.
Great. And then Ms. McGowan, it is my intention to issue a decision on this application within 10 business days. How can members of the public obtain my decision after it's issued?
So I can, if they request in writing that they receive a copy of this decision, they may do that. I know a few of the people have already requested a notice of the decision, but if anyone online or in the room with us here would like to receive a copy of the decision from Mr. Sorter, please go ahead and email or write a letter to me, and I'll make sure to get that to you however you like.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for attending the hearing today. With that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn, and I hope you all have a pleasant day.